Welcome to the Agile Engineering Deep Dive podcast. I'm Alessandro Guida, and today we're taking a closer look at a challenge that quietly shapes the success of every modern R&D organization: dependencies. Agile frameworks are built on the idea of autonomous teams. But in real engineering environments, with shared platforms, compliance constraints, or legacy systems, dependencies are unavoidable. And when they're not managed with discipline, they create delays, integration issues, and unnecessary complexity. In this episode, we explore why dependencies emerge, why autonomy alone isn't enough, and how lightweight engineering-driven discipline can restore flow, predictability, and quality across teams. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. If you work in a medium to large organization trying to adopt Agile, you'll know the core conflict we're tackling today.
Oh, absolutely.
It's that tension, between the promise of Agile autonomy, speed, and the messy reality of organizational dependencies.
It is the central trap.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Agile principles, they're often written as if every team is on its own little island.
A perfect vacuum.
Exactly. They promise independent delivery, fast flow, total control.
Mm-hmm.
But then you drop that into a real company and you realize, teams share systems, they share code bases.
And you have centralized services, right, like security, architecture, or that one DBA team that everyone has to go through.
Right.
So the manifesto says, be autonomous, be fast. But the organization chart says, hold on. You need the platform team's new API, you need security to sign off, and you can't touch that because it's a legacy system.
And that speed it vanishes. It's replaced by waiting.
And meetings, so many meetings.
And that is our mission for this deep dive. We've been looking at the sources to find an answer. How do you manage these inevitable dependencies without just defaulting to some massive high overhead framework like SAFe?
We're looking for something lighter.
We're looking for the lightweight, consistent answer. And what our analysis shows is that it all boils down to one often misunderstood word: discipline.
Okay, but before we get into the practices, let's just be really clear on why these dependencies are such a huge challenge. The sources, they really emphasize that the problem isn't Agile itself.
No, not at all. It's the environment.
It's the context.
Agile assumes you can work in parallel. But when you have 5 teams all contributing to the same product or sharing one critical piece of infrastructure, you just can't escape the need for some sequential work.
It's unavoidable.
And this is the insight. This is the thing that I think everyone misses. Dependencies are not optional. Ignoring them doesn't make them go away.
No, it just makes them invisible.
Invisible and unmanaged. They just sit there lurking until they become this massive, unforecasted integration crisis the night before a big launch.
We've all been there.
So the goal isn't elimination. It can't be. It has to be acknowledgement and management.
Okay, let's unpack that concept of discipline because, when I hear that word in a corporate context, my mind immediately goes to bureaucracy, paperwork, rigidity.
The very things Agile was supposed to save us from.
Exactly. So if we're not implementing a full-scale framework, what is the alternative here?
And that reaction is precisely why we have to redefine the term. We are not talking about top-down rigid control. We're not talking about adding layers of governance.
So what are we talking about?
Discipline, in this context, is about establishing consistent, lightweight practices. That's it. Practices that enable coordination across those team boundaries. It's about being intentional, not bureaucratic.
I like that. So it's a structure that enables agility. It doesn't stifle it. It's like providing the rails so the train can go faster.
Exactly, without derailing. The output of this kind of discipline is accountability, consistency, and maybe most importantly, foresight.
Foresight.
It's the essential mechanism that unlocks true agility, which, we would define as fast delivery, high quality, and a sustainable pace. You simply cannot maintain a fast flow if every single integration point is a surprise.
That makes the stakes extremely clear. So if discipline is the key, let's dive into the core practices. If dependencies are currently invisible, the first step has to be, forcing them into the light.
Right. If you can see it, you can manage it. This is the first practical application of discipline, visibility.
Mm-hmm.
You have to expose those inter-team needs explicitly and early.
And simple tools can work here, right? We're not talking about buying expensive software.
Not at all. Simple tools work wonders. Shared dependency boards, visual integration roadmaps, or maybe larger program boards if you're coordinating a lot of teams.
But just seeing it isn't enough. Visibility is just the start.
It's a starting point, yes.
It's worthless if there isn't deliberate action attached to it. The source material is very clear on this. Teams have to flag and then negotiate these dependencies during their planning sessions.
The sooner the better. You have to raise a dependency risk with the same seriousness as you'd raise a technical risk.
And once it's visible, the next challenge is ambiguity. That leads us right to the next practice.
Building shared understanding. You've identified that Team A needs something from Team B, but what if they're speaking different technical languages or making all these hidden assumptions about scope or timing?
The dependency will still fail.
It will still fail. So you need agreements. You need to formalize those handshakes, even if they're lightweight.
We're talking about documenting key interfaces, like stable APIs, clear service level expectations.
Precisely. So Team A knows exactly what to expect from Team B, but it's also about common working agreements, a shared glossary so that customer means the same thing to both teams.
And the big one, a unified definition of done.
Oh, that is where the entire house of cards collapses, isn't it?
All the time. My team thinks done means the code passed unit tests.
But the other team assumed done meant it was deployed and available in the staging environment for them to test against.
And everything grinds to a halt.
Absolutely. That attention to detail, eliminating that ambiguity, that's where coordination actually happens. But even if you know what you need and who you need it from, it doesn't help if your clocks aren't synchronized.
Which brings us to synchronization. This seems intuitive, but in practice, aligning planning cadences across teams that want to be independent, that is deceptively hard. Why is it so vital?
It's the key to intentionally breaking that sequential workflow pattern we talked about. If Team A and Team B are on totally different sprint rhythms, Team B's commitment might land right in the middle of Team A's most critical delivery week.
Creating chaos.
Total chaos.
Synchronization means aligning those cadences' shared sprint schedules, aligned release trains, so that dependent teams have intentional, pre-planned checkpoints to communicate. And within those schedules, we need tactical ways to surface mismatches immediately, not the end. Our sources spent a lot of time on two things here: integration milestones and this fascinating technique called tracer bullets.
This is where we move from just process management to real technical foresight. The idea of the tracer bullet, it's an incredibly resilient concept.
It's been around for a while, hasn't it?
It has. We can trace its modern formal definition largely back to Andy Hunt and Dave Thomas in their classic 1999 book, The Pragmatic Programmer.
1999, wow. That gives it some serious longevity. So for anyone who's not familiar, what makes a tracer bullet so effective at exposing these dependency issues early?
Okay, so a tracer bullet is not a full feature. It's a skeletal system. It's a thin slice of end-to-end functionality that you build really early in the process.
So it's the minimal path.
It's the minimal path that touches all the major architectural pieces. Hunt and Thomas described it as. Let me get this right. Tracer code is a skeletal system that touches all the major pieces of the system.
Exercising all the communications paths and showing that the major components are in place and working.
Exactly.
So if I'm building, say, a user registration system that relies on 3 different microservices, the tracer bullet would be what? Getting a single username to pass through all 3 services and into the database.
Yes. Even if you haven't built the fancy UI or the error handling or anything else, you just prove the path works.
Because that's where the risk is.
That's where the risk is. You validate the architecture and you exercise the communication channels between all the dependent teams. If you can make that basic transaction work, you've found any integration problems, network issues, API contract mismatches, authentication failures before you've invested hundreds of hours of work.
That is incredibly powerful. But synchronization and technical checks aren't enough if ownership is murky. Let's talk about assigning ownership.
For any critical, high-risk dependency, someone has to be explicitly accountable.
And this person doesn't necessarily do the work themselves?
No, not at all. They are responsible for tracking, coordinating, escalating, just ensuring the communication is happening proactively. They're the glue.
And this could be a Scrum Master or a release train engineer.
It could be. Or it could just be a rotating team member who takes the lead for that specific item for that iteration. The title really doesn't matter as much as the clarity of the responsibility.
Okay, now let's go deeper on technical discipline. We talked about tracer bullets, but this is broader. It's about using tools to reduce dependencies, or at least decouple them. What are the key practices here?
Well, we need techniques that let teams build and deploy without being constantly blocked. The first, and maybe most common now, is feature toggles.
Or feature flags.
Right. It lets code for a half-finished feature be merged and integrated into the main branch, but it's hidden from users until all the dependent parts are ready.
Which is absolutely crucial for continuous integration. It means you're integrating constantly even if the user can't see it yet.
Absolutely. And the second key strategy is defining the interaction before you build the implementation.
Contract-first development.
And API mocking. If Team A needs an API from Team B, they define the exact contract, the inputs, the outputs, the behaviors up front. Team B provides a mock that matches that contract, and Team A can build against the mock.
Which removes the dependency on Team B's speed. It's replaced with a dependency on their commitment to the contract they agreed on.
Exactly. And finally, the mechanics of it all have to be robust. The sources stress this over and over. Rigorous branching strategies, extensive automated integration tests, and solid CI/CD pipelines.
It turns integration from a big, scary, one-time event
into a low-risk, continuous, boring activity, which is what you want.
Which is exactly what you want. Okay, so moving from the technical to the cultural, the final practice here is fostering collaboration. This feels like a deeper mindset shift is required.
It is. You have to stop viewing dependent teams as just handoff points.
Yeah.
Or worse, as blockers.
They need to be collaborators.
True collaborators. This means you have to move beyond just sending an email and expecting a delivery. It means encouraging joint design sessions. Get the architects and the developers from both teams in the same room.
So everyone understands the bigger picture.
Yes. Schedule cross-team demos so everyone sees how their piece fits into the puzzle. And, this is a big one, hold shared retrospectives when an integration point fails.
So you fix the process together.
You fix the process together. You don't just point fingers at the team who delivered the broken code.
This whole framework of 6 practices, visibility, shared understanding, synchronization, ownership, technical rigor, and collaboration, it's really about proactively managing the complexity that you just can't avoid.
It's about mastering reality, not ignoring it. And this proactive approach is precisely what saves organizations from falling into the 3 most common traps.
The pitfalls. What do we need to avoid?
Trap 1 is just failing to admit reality. It's ignoring dependencies for the sake of autonomy.
Trying to force autonomy where the architecture just doesn't support it.
Exactly. And it leads directly to chaotic, last-minute integration and, catastrophic missed commitments. Discipline has to start with acknowledging reality.
And then, once we acknowledge that chaos, the pendulum often swings too far the other way.
And that's trap 2. Over-centralizing control. You see the chaos, and the impulse is to create a huge central governance team to manage every single dependency.
And that team immediately becomes the bottleneck.
The bottleneck and the single point of failure. It leads to decision paralysis. The goal, remember, is distributed discipline.
Distributed discipline. I like that phrase.
Teams coordinate intentionally, but they take responsibility for their own half of the handshake.
Okay, and the final technical mistake. The one we've been alluding to this whole time.
Last-minute integration. This is the trap that just kills velocity. Delaying integration until the very end of a sprint or a release is the ultimate abandonment of discipline.
It introduces this massive avoidable risk.
You're just stacking up technical debt and risk for the final few days. You're guaranteeing failure, or at least a lot of late nights.
So this brings us full circle. Dependencies in large organizations aren't a failure of Agile. They're just a reality of complexity. The real failure is assuming you can wish them away.
Instead of managing them with rigorous, lightweight discipline. And discipline here is just consistency, accountability, and foresight baked into how you work.
And when teams commit to these practices, they unlock that true, sustainable agility.
Even in the most complicated corporate ecosystems.
So for you, listening to this, running your own complex project, what's the one thing to take away?
Well, if distributed discipline means every team takes responsibility and coordinates intentionally, here's the question to mull over.
Okay.
If you had to pick one new, non-negotiable ritual to enforce early and frequent integration across your most complicated organizational boundary, what would it be? Would it be mandating a shared retrospective?
Yeah.
Formalizing API contracts with mocking tools? Think of the smallest change that would force that discipline, and start there tomorrow.
Thank you for listening to the Agile Engineering Deep Dive podcast. If today's episode gave you new insight into working across teams or highlighted the role of discipline in achieving real agility, feel free to share it with your colleagues or your network. You can find the full written article along with previous episodes in the Agile Software Engineering newsletter on LinkedIn. And if you have thoughts, questions, or examples from your own organization, I'd be happy to hear from you. Your experiences help shape what we explore next. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next episode.